Mighty Ape is Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore with everything from movies, music, games, toys, books, hobbies and more. Mighty Ape is your one-stop shop for the things that matter most. They constantly have hot deals and exclusive promos. And if you visit their website on the click-through banner on fakechef.net's homepage, then your purchase will help support Good Movie Monday. Mighty Ape, Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning? What do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
The sooner we do this episode, the sooner I can have a couple more of those lollies.
How are you, Ben?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm going to say right off the bat that we're in for a weird kind of show today.
Aren't all our shows weird?
It's another one of those themes that sounded awesome in theory, but then it's just a pain in the ass in practice. I struggled a little bit. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump straight into the formalities and welcome everybody to Good Movie Monday, the weekly podcast presented by fakechef.net, home of the nerdy cinematic ramblings. My name is Glenn Cochran, long and loose and full of juice, and my co-host with the most is none other than Ben Halwig, who has a thirst for the worst and is ready to burst. I have no fucking idea where any of that came from. Or what it means, but Dr. Zeus would be proud.
You know what? I've been thinking about it during your opening spiel, and I do mind. Let's just cut all that. Cut it all.
Oh, geez. Coming up today, we're going to be chatting with Kiah Roache Turner, the director of the upcoming Wormwood Apocalypse,
which is screening this Sunday night at the closing night of Monster Fest.
I thought I'd quickly get one final Monster Fest plug-in before it wraps. So stick around for that. We have what I can only assume is going to be a fun show for you this week. We are talking about new film discoveries. And if you're wondering what that even means, then that makes three of us. Ben, what are we doing today?
Well, I think it's fairly self-explanatory, although you obviously had an issue with it. It's just supposed to be movies that we've just discovered. Like,
okay.
They can be old, they can be new, but you just, for whatever reason, haven't watched it up until recently, and you're like, wow, that was fucking excellent.
So maybe I overthought it or misinterpreted, because I went looking for movies that I'd never heard of before. So I went down a rabbit hole of, just trying to find it. Ooh, never heard of that before.
Right. I was like, I've heard of this, it's out.
But, I kind of, and when I thought about it, I thought maybe Ben means movies that we've known about a long time, but only just got around to watching. So,
like I've actually, funnily enough, I've gone both. There's one that I had never heard of.
Yep.
And one that I'd known about for a long time and just had never got around to watching.
There we go. I feel a bit better then.
So I've mixed and matched.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. Please do stick around because the gang are here to present their weekly segments. Jared Gunn from Monster Pictures has you covered for this week's home entertainment releases. Guillermo Troncoso from Screen Run will lay some movie news on you. Chloe Ritchie from Movie Night with the Ritchie Girls podcast will tackle today's theme of a new film discovery of her own, and Adam will follow that up with one of his. And all the way from Kentucky, the lads from Bonehead will either soothe your ear holes or violate them. It's a matter of perspective.
And to all those, was it ASR fans out there? This one's for you. ASMR, this one's for you.
Ben's just discovered what that's all about.
Yeah. I find it fascinating. That and mukbanging.
we like the mukbang. Only because we like eating.
Yeah. I just didn't realize I could get paid for it. I thought I would have to pay for it in the form of a heart attack or diabetes. But I didn't realize that there was a monetary incentive as well.
Yes, well, maybe the 2022 season of Good Movie Monday has a whole new flavour.
It'd just be like things to listen to while you're watching a movie. Like it's like background noise. So you can still watch the movie, still focus on it, but in the background there's just a bit of...
Mate.
Like rubbing.
I might orgasm when I edit this.
I've just pricked your prostate.
Oh,
as the saying goes.
So before we jump into things, right now, as in this week, As I mentioned, Monster Fest is in full swing at Cinema Nova. In fact, it's going to be running all the way till this coming Sunday, which is December 12th. And if you haven't already gotten along, it's never too late. Check out the Monster Fest website and snatch up a few tickets. As well as the Wormwood chat we have coming up, we've also recorded some cool interviews with filmmakers from the festival, and they're currently available for you to check out for free. Everything we do is free, none of that Patreon nonsense.
Does anyone even Patreon anymore? Like, I feel like OnlyFans has completely taken over the Patreon. I know Patreon is more of a legit non-porn version of whatever that is, like getting people to pay you for doing whatever the fuck you were going to do it for free anyway.
So
But,
that address is onlyfans.com/Good Movie Monday. And as I was saying, we've uploaded audio to our podcast stream as well. So those videos that we did with those filmmakers is also available in audio wherever you get your podcast from. Might be easier for you to listen to on the way to or from work.
and that way you don't have to look at us.
Well, that's right. But if you do want to look at us, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram is where you'll do that.
On the OnlyFans version, we're dressed as French maids. And
Ben,
there's some more there's some taint tapping. You remember that from a couple of weeks ago? The old taint tap. That's OnlyFans.
plug something else. Letterboxd. Letterboxd.
There's no taint tapping on Letterboxd. Just be warned ahead of time. But we do have a Letterboxd account. It's Letterboxd without the E at the second,
Third.
third E. Ben can count and spell.
Do you wonder how many more patrons they would have if they actually spelled it
Spelled
correctly?
it correctly, yeah. If Letterboxd was even an actual fucking word.
Oh, I wonder if anyone's
I mean, it
snapped up
is,
that website.
but
the
it's
actual
not.
letterbox.com.
The actual Letterboxd, yeah. They probably have it.
Mm,
If they're smart, they've got it.
yeah, and it just redirects.
But it is a movie listing site, basically, and review site. And we list every film that we talk about on the show. So you can go back later and have a look at it and go, yeah, that sounded interesting. I might check that out sometime in the next 20 years.
Yeah. And if you like the sound of us, we're on TikTok. So look at us, multimedia mavericks, mate. Or just a couple of dickheads.
Yeah, we do it all. We are on everything. Patreon, OnlyFans, TikTok, Instagram,
Pornhub.
Twitter, Pornhub, Spank Bang.
Chatterbait.
Yeah. Now that would be a facet. We should definitely. Could you imagine us like broadcasting the show live on Chatterbait, and the token sounds go all the way through, and because we'd have to be strapped up to some kind of vibrational device.
Who's going to wear it?
Yeah. No, we both wear it.
Okay.
We both wear one, and it's hooked up. And every time somebody donates, the both of us are just like,
Welcome.
Hey, this is Jarrett and welcome to PE class. Now, if I'm sounding a little hoarse, that is because I have just survived 4 days of Monster Fest. There is 6 days to go, but being Monday, this is the Sabbath of Monster Fest. This is the day of rest. So if I don't sound great, it's not that I'm not enthusiastic, it's just I'm a little worse for wear. So let's get into this week's releases. First up, Universal Sony have Infinite coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. This, of course, is from the Paramount catalogue, and it was one of Paramount Plus's launch titles. And that was only a few months ago, so it's good to know that even though these films are going digital, the Paramount are still going to do physical releases of these bigger key titles. That's the one with Mark Wahlberg. If you haven't seen it, well, you can check it out on home entertainment now. Then there's Stillwater coming out with Matt Damon. This is like a slow burn version of Taken meets Prisoners. It's very slow, but it's super engaging. I enjoyed it. It's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. Then weeks after the Blu-ray and DVD release, finally coming out in 4K this week is Nia DaCosta's Candyman. Again, I really enjoyed this one. It does take into account the legacy of Candyman and the events that took place in Bernard Rose's Candyman as well. I'm looking forward to checking out the special features on this 4K Ultra HD release. It's got Atmos and it has Dolby Vision also. Then some classic titles that are coming out via Universal Sony include the Karate Kid trilogy on 4K Ultra HD. That's right, they have released the first film before, but this is the first time that 2 and 3 have been released, so you're going to have to rebuy 1 to get 2 and 3, and I'm cool with that. I've already flipped my 1 in order to get this box set, and I'm kind of glad that it doesn't have the next Karate Kid or that Karate Kid remake with Will Smith's kid in it. Then another legacy title from the Universal Pictures catalogue is Universal Classic Monsters Icons of Horror Collection. Now this is got 4 features in it. It's got Dracula, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, and Frankenstein. Now it is 4K only. There is no Blu-ray component with this, but that's fine because Universal have put all the special features on the 4K discs as well as the feature. Then also another classic title coming out via Universal Sony from the Studio Canal catalogue is Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders, and it contains both cuts of the film, the theatrical and the complete novel, plus a bunch of special features also. Then David Lynch's Mulholland Drive is getting a 4K release from Studio Canal. Of course, this 4K master has been floating around for a while. The Blu-ray was taken from the 4K master, but this has Dolby Vision and HDR. So, yeah, it's probably worth upgrading if you're a Lynch fan. And I mean, this is a wonder to look at. Not necessarily super cohesive story-wise, but that's David Lynch for you. Then Umbrella have a heap of releases coming out this week. First up, they've got Brian Trenchard Smith's Man from Hong Kong. Now, this has been released on Blu-ray before, about 5 years ago, but Umbrella are re-releasing as part of their Ozploitation Classics line, and it does have some new special features on there, as well as a limited edition CD soundtrack. And of course, being Ozploitation Classics, you'll get a slipcase too. Then Fred Skepsi's 1976 film The Devil's Playground is coming out on Blu-ray as part of the Sunbird Screen series. The last one I want to mention is the second volume in Umbrella's All-Star Comedy Capers, which are double features that they've put together. And this release has Stir Crazy and Hanky Panky on it, so definitely going to pick that one up. Then lastly, Imprint have a bunch of releases. I have covered these before in the news some time ago, but I will let you know. But they're releasing Let's Scare Jessica to Death, The Gift, Stir of Echoes, Body Parts, and The Medusa Touch, all on Blu-ray. And of course, being Imprint, they'll have special features, slipcases, and they are limited. Anyway, that's it for me for this week. Until next time, stay physical.
All right, mate. Crunch time. Tell me, what's a film that you've discovered recently?
Well, a couple of weeks ago on the show, I did mention that I had been down to Mornington to visit Dead End DVD, and one of the Blu-rays I picked up from there it's an indicator release of a film called Cash on Demand from 1961. It is and it was originally released as part of one of Indicator's Hammer horror box sets. And they have since, that box set is well and truly out of print, but they've actually started releasing the films separately. Yep. Probably without a booklet or something like that that's going to niggle and annoy me for the rest of my life that I don't have the good version. But I did pick up this DVD called Cash on Demand, Blu-ray, sorry. And it is absolutely fantastic. It's a odd kind of Hammer crime film. I didn't really realize that Hammer had done things other than horror.
Yep.
But they dipped their fingers in, like all film studios. They were just out to try and make money. And any genre that seemed to be popular, obviously, they got into. I'm looking forward to checking out some Hammer romances down the track when that box set comes out. But this one, it's from 1961, directed by this guy, Quentin Lawrence, who did a lot of TV stuff, including some of my favorite, kind of like The Baron, Hey, Baron. Every episode is he gets a phone call. Hey, Baron, I've got a line on some dodgy antiques. I'll meet you down the docks. And then he gets to the docks and the guy's been killed. And then the episode is off. Every episode of The Baron. It's amazing. Like he's an antique dealer who solves crime in his spare time. Only the British could come up with this as a primetime TV show. But anyway, this guy has directed episodes of that. But it stars Peter Cushing as it's almost like a Christmas Carol type movie, but he's a bank manager and he's a bit of an asshole. He's very prim and proper, and he treats his staff as slaves. He's not interested in their personal lives. He is only interested in perfection. He's not a particularly nice person to work for, and they don't particularly like him. And this movie is set at Christmas time, and they're planning the staff party and stuff, which he is couldn't care less about and doesn't want them to discuss on work time and all this kind of stuff. He's just a real kind of difficult kind of character to work for.
Mm.
And then they get a visit one day from this guy, played by Andre Morel, who, if you're a Peter Cushing kind of fan, you'll know that the year prior to this, Peter Cushing and Andre Morel were in Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles, with Peter Cushing being Sherlock Holmes and Andre Morel was Dr. Watson. But in this one, he comes in and he pretends to be, he gets the assistant manager to let him straight back into the manager's office. And then he basically says that he's been sent there by head office, the insurance company from head office, that make sure the banks are all safe and secure and that no one can, steal any money. And they buy it hook, line, and sinker, and no one does any checks or anything like that. But then as the movie unfolds, you realize that he's pulled a kind of Friends of Eddie Coyle, and he convinces Peter Cushing that he's there to rob the bank, and he's got hold of his wife and child. And if he doesn't light a cigarette or make certain marks in the window at certain times, his family are going to be killed.
Right.
And then basically gets Peter Cushing to help him rob the bank. It's a really super tense kind of movie, he does as the movie goes on. The reason I say it's kind of like a Christmas Carol is because he does come to appreciate his staff. They really. When things come to a head, they really help him out.
Yeah, right.
But it is a real fascinating movie, excellently shot, well paced. It is very tense. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And Andre Morel is Peter Cushing is great, but Peter Cushing playing an arsehole, he's great at it, but he's so unlikable.
Yeah.
Whereas Andre Morel, who is the real villain of this film, he's got a twinkle in his eye the whole time, and he is incredibly likable. And even though he is the villain, you still find yourself almost rooting for him more than Peter Cushing. Even though, and as the film goes, Peter Cushing unravels dramatically.
Yeah. Right.
It is a fascinating movie. Highly recommend it. It is available, as I said, on Blu-ray through Indicator, and you can probably. I think I bought his last copy, but I'm sure he can get more copies in if you ask him to at Dead End DVD.
Well, speaking of Dead End DVD, one movie I spoke about a few weeks ago on our Killer Toys episode was Benny Loves You, and I noticed he had that there. And that's a recent film discovery, it came from nowhere. I just looked up Killer Toy movies, saw it, was new, and watched it, and it's amazing. So there's one I just wanted to throw out there. But, the movies I discover all the time are Aussie ones. My fetish almost is going back watching old Aussie movies I've never heard of before. It's it's a real thing I love to do.
Simone Buchanan as a 12-year-old kid? I'm in. That sounds dirty. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant she made lots of good movies as a kid.
There are so many that I discovered. Last year I discovered Summerfield for the first time, and that is fantastic. Last of the Knucklemen, I hadn't heard of that before.
You never heard of it?
I had not. Maybe have seen stills from it. But that was a ripper. I really love that one. But I'm going to stop and talk about A Dangerous Summer from 1982, which is the most recent one I stumbled across, starring American Tom Skerritt. You got James Mason and Wendy Hughes is in there. And there's also a few smaller roles from Ray Barrett and Wandon Valley's own Dr. Terence Elliott, Shane Porteous. And that was great.
Shane Porteous.
That was great to see him in.
You can always judge the age of a movie by the size of Shane Porteous's nose and the redness of it.
Or the shade of his hair.
Yeah. How white are you? How white has it gone?
Again, I don't know how I missed this one, but as I tend to do, I just sort of went down a bit of a rabbit hole and I went and purchased this one on eBay once I discovered it. And apparently, according to Facebook, it was suggested to me that this movie was shit. And I disagree. I really liked it a lot.
Hear that? Fuck you, Facebook, or whatever you're going to be called now.
This is a movie that takes place in the Blue Mountains during a bushfire, and Tom Skerritt plays an architect sort of developer on a resort. There's a big sort of dodgy insurance scheme going on in the boardrooms in Sydney. So it's a movie about corruption and at a corporate level, and this guy just finds himself mixed up in a deadly cover-up. But it's pretty good stuff. Skerritt is really good in it. I like seeing him in this sort of in an Australian film. He'd just come off really alien, not that.
I gotta say, I always find it I like watching young Tom Skerritt in things because
Yeah.
I'm so used to him being like old or middle aged.
Yeah.
Because Tom Skerritt, I feel like was one of those guys that when he turned 40, he immediately basically turned 60.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he just always,
But
like,
he
he'd
was-
picket fences and stuff.
But he was teetering on 40 for a long time.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Wendy Hughes is good in it too. She plays like an insurance investigator. And what I love about this film, and this is a massive spoiler, but look, it's not going to ruin the movie for you. But if you don't want to know, anything, block your ears. They kill her off pretty quickly. And,
Okay. That's not. If they kill her off quickly, it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, but like she was a star, like
Yeah.
so they killed the star fairly early on. But I like that it gave the film a little bit more sort of gravitas. And anyway, it was originally supposed to be directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, which most early Aussie films were supposed to be directed by Brian Trenchard Smith. I think he shot most of the bushfire sequences in it, but for one reason or another, he stepped off. I think Bruce Beresford was then attached at one point. And it ultimately went to Quentin Masters, who also made Midnight Spares. And a fantastic movie with
Like
Bruce
all
Dern.
these, I was going to say, all these movies that you've mentioned so far have appeared. They were released by Roache Home Video, and I've got them as those Roache are
Delicious, mate.
VHS tapes.
But this guy, Quentin Masters, made 2 Aussie films and then like 2 American films. And one of them was Thumb Tripping with Bruce Dern and Meg Foster.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great film.
Yeah.
And it's and what's his name too? It's the Captain Stubing. Is it Captain Stubing or I can't remember if it's either Captain Stubing or it's the desk sergeant from Hill Street Blues, whatever his name is. But one of them are like this sleazy. It plays a sleazy truck driver who basically lures poor Meg Foster into prostitution. And it's so weird because Meg Foster is so young in it, yet she still has like that Meg Foster face and those incredibly piercing pale blue eyes. It's quite. I was like, I just don't know how you could do it.
What I want to know is how I knew about Thumb Tripping but not Dangerous Summer.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend it. I wouldn't call this one exceptional, but I just think it's genuinely good. It's a whodunit. A little bit predictable, I'll give it that. But the atmosphere just has me sold on it. And I just love these Aussie films from the 70s and 80s. They're great.
How's it going, everybody? It's Kiah here again from ScreenRealm.com, Australia's favourite entertainment website covering all things movies and television. Once again here to tell you a little bit about what we've covered on the website in the past week. Kicking off with Nicolas Cage playing Dracula. That's right, in a role that really should have been ages ago, although he did dabble with vampirism in 1989 flick Vampire's Kiss. The Cage has signed up to play the Transylvanian Count in a Universal Pictures monster movie titled Renfield. The film will be following Dracula's titular acolyte and henchman R.M. Renfield, to be played by Nicholas Hoult. Both Dracula and Renfield originated in Bram Stoker's 1897 gothic horror novel Dracula, which depicted Renfield as a mental asylum patient who serves Dracula in the hope that the vampire will grant him immortality. Set to direct the film, which is being described as a modern-day adventure story that is comedic in tone, is the Tomorrow War and the Lego Batman movie helmer Chris McKay. The screenplay comes from Ryan Ridley, whose primarily television credits include Rick and Morty, Community, and Invincible. The Walking Dead and Invincible executive producer Robert Kirkman came up with the original story and will be on board as producer. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and The Impossible director J.A. Bayona will be directing a Netflix film about a real-life 1972 plane crash disaster. Titled Society of the Snow, the film will be based on the book of the same name by Pablo Vierci and will tell the tragic true story of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. Carrying a rugby team to Chile, the flight was met with poor weather while flying over the Andes Mountains and catastrophically crashed in a glacier in the heart of the precarious and isolated mountain range. Of the 45 passengers, 3 crew members and 8 passengers died immediately. Over the next 72 days, those that had survived the initial crash were subject to starvation, extreme weather and a harsh environment, including an avalanche, and some were forced to resort to cannibalism. You may remember that this story was taken to the screen by director Frank Marshall back in 1993 with an Ethan Hawke starring film called Alive. Bayona, whose directorial credits also include The Orphanage and A Monster Calls, will be writing the screenplay with Bernat Villaplana, Jay Marquez, and Nicolas Casariego. And quite the cast is coming together for the next film for Scott Cooper, known for Crazy Heart, Out of the Furnace, Black Mass, Hostiles, and Antlers. Scott Cooper is reuniting with Hostiles star Christian Bale for this one, a period gothic thriller heading heading to Netflix. The film is based on a 2006 book of the same name by author Louis Bayard, following a criminal case in the renowned US military academy at West Point in 1830. Christian Bale will be playing a detective who looks into a series of murders that take place. His investigation leads him into the underground secret world at this military school, and at the center of the case is a cadet named Edgar Allan Poe, to be played by Harry Melling. His credits include The Queen's Gambit and the Harry Potter franchise. Quite an ensemble. Also in the cast, Gillian Anderson, Robert Duvall, Timothy Spall, Lucy Boynton, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Toby Jones, and a number of others. This is shaping up to be a big one for Netflix. The streaming giant paid a whopping $55 million to get this one. The Pale Blue Eye, no release date as of yet. This past week I also reviewed new Disney animated film Encanto. Had some minor qualms with it, but with its beautiful messages, strong characterization, lovely animation and wonderful music, Encanto should prove to be a heartwarming, emotional adventure to please audiences of all ages. Go to Screen Realm, check out my complete review. Encanto is now showing in cinemas. Thanks so much for having me, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Catch you next week.
I don't wanna say what I feel.
Sound of Fear by Stefano Mainetti from the soundtrack to Zombie 3. How good's that, Ben? I think that was your choice.
Yeah, and it's a banger of a track, and in the movie, like, it gets you pumped.
What better song to segue to Wormwood Apocalypse, given that it's a zombie movie?
Zombie, yeah, that's why I chose it, Glenn.
And what a great film to be closing Monster Fest with. I was a massive fan of the first one. It caught me completely off guard. I avoided it for a long time because of all the hype, and when I finally put that Blu-ray on, it hit me like a Mack truck.
Hit you? Like, I was there for the original hype, mate. I saw it
You were the
at
hype
one of
man.
its early screenings at Fantastic Fest with the two Roache Turner brothers in attendance, and they came out in singlets and holding up VBs. It was an amazing screening.
Tell you what, I recently got to spend some time talking with Kiah, Roache Turner. What a guy. And he's going to talk all about Wormwood Apocalypse. As I said, it's at Monster Fest. Enjoy this, and we'll catch you on the other side. G'day, Kiah. Pleasure to be chatting with you, mate. How the hell are you?
I'm okay, man. I'm okay. Any sort of period of time where I get to release a film is a good period of time. So I'm in a pretty good mood. Fucking the reviews are going okay. It screened well at Sydney Film Festival, screened well at Brisbane. I cannot complain. Not a single bad review.
I want to start by asking you if you've been keeping up with the whole Matt Doran stuff with Adele.
No, I read a headline. Tell me what's going on with that.
Oh, well, he flew all the way to London to interview her and then revealed that he hadn't listened to her album. And so he lost Channel 7 $1 million contract with the studio. But I wanted to preface this conversation by saying that I haven't seen Wormwood Apocalypse yet.
That's all right. Have you seen number one?
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
It's just a continuation thereof. If you've seen Evil Dead 1, you've seen Evil Dead 2, kind of. I'm not Adele. I don't give a fuck, Glenn. I'm just happy to talk to you.
I owned a video store for several years and had a Wormwood poster behind my counter for at least 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine. That's fine. And like, I'm sure you'll like the sequel. Like, if you're a Wormwood fan, yeah, it's sort of bigger. It's got big clanging balls that the other one didn't have. It's not quite as funny, but it makes up for it. Okay, do you know what it is? It's Mad Max 1 and Mad Max 2. Mad Max 1 is kind of creakier, but kind of more fun, and it sets up the whole world. Mad Max 2 is just like fucking pedal to the metal. It just does not fuck around from like frame. It's basically one long truck chase, and that's
Awesome.
it's kind of similar with our thing, So I'm sure you'll love it once you see it.
Well, you've kind of covered already a couple of my questions, which is awesome. But like, I was gonna go in by saying, well, why the fuck should I see this movie? But you've answered that question by comparing it to sort of the Mad Max films. I'm on board. I remember the first movie being compared with sort of a Mad Max crossed with Dawn of the Dead. I think that was even on the DVD.
Yes.
Yeah, is that a good way to describe this one too?
Yes. So the first one is like Mad Max 1 crossed with Dawn of the Dead. And to be clear, it's the Ramiro Dawn of the Dead. The Snyder Dawn of the Dead is like a $45 million film. It's a different beast. But I really wanted, when I made Wormwood, I didn't mind that it was a bit gritty and a little bit of a throwback to, the old kind of 70s, exploitation films. I really wanted it to feel like, Evil Dead 2 with slightly better lighting. And actually Evil Dead 2 was pretty well lit, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But this one's just a bit more pro. So this would be Mad Max 2 crossed with Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, awesome.
With a cyborg zombie thrown in just for good measure.
I remember shortly after the first movie came out, there was buzz or talk about a sequel even back then. And I think you even had maybe a TV series in mind at one point. Like, when did the sequel come to you? Was it before the first one even happened? Did you have this universe in mind, or, where did the origins of this come from?
It always wanted to be like a riffable franchise where we could just sort of riff endlessly for as long as people will continue to allow us to make these movies. Like, world building is a bit of a cliche, but that's exactly what we wanted to do, because I grew up watching Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. And, I love the world of Evil Dead. I love the world that George Miller set up with Apocalypse, and quite frankly, we just got the shits with waiting for him to make another film. So we thought, oh well, let's just shoot one in our backyard, and Wormwood happened. So we always wanted a sequel. Ironically, the opening scene in Wormwood Apocalypse that you will see, it's the post-title scene. So the title comes up, and then we open with sort of this man alone in a electrified sort of enclosure with a fence around it, and all these zombies trying to get in. And he's got a zombie attached to his barbecue that runs his barbecue. He's got a zombie tied up to a stake that he uses for boxing practice. So the zombie's boxing him. It's got a bird cage around its head so it doesn't bite him, and he beats the shit out of it every day. That's how he exercises.
Nice.
So that scene was written 12 years ago. That's the first thing we wrote for Wormwood. So originally, I don't know if you've seen the 7-minute proof of concept that we did for Wormwood, I think in 2010 now. So we released this little 7-minute sort of proof of concept thing just on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally going to be the opening scene for the film, and we were going to start a year into the apocalypse, straight into Mad Max world. Mm-hmm. But then as we kind of developed it and kind of started setting up, Wormwood Road of the Dead, we realized really we should tell the origin story, more like how Mad Max, sets up Max Rockatansky with his family and that, and he moves into the wilderness of the apocalypse. And so that's what we ended up doing. And so now 7 years later, we finally got to shoot the original film that we kind of wanted to make. So it's kind of, it's a really nice way. It's really circular sort of way to get to the film. We did have a TV series planned. After we made the first one, I was kind of I just wanted to try television. I wanted to make, but it had to be good. It's look, if we can't make Breaking Bad with zombies, what the fuck's the point? So if we can't make the greatest ever Australian zombie television series, don't want to do it. And, we wrote the pilot, and we wrote a very detailed pitch Bible that's that thick. It's the best document I've ever made. And we just sort of shopped it around. We went over to LA, we talked to a bunch of different companies, and I realized very quickly that the television world is very hard to crack. And B, we weren't going to get a budget that I was confident with to be able to make it the best ever. But I knew that if we made a film, I'd knock it out of the park. And so we just went back to the idea of making a feature. And I'm really glad we did, because, you get to the end of a thing and you kind of know if it kicks ass or not. The public will decide whether they like it and whether it's going to make money, and, the reviewers will decide how good it is. But really, all that stuff doesn't really fucking matter, because I love it. I love the film. I'm just looking at it. I've seen it 150 times now, and I'm like, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, And if you make a film that you're proud of, that's your 80% there, So I'm pretty happy with what we've done,
Awesome. If I can ask a typical sort of journo style question for a moment, what were some valuable lessons you took away from the first film, or even sort of Necrotronic, and applied to this one, or maybe even avoided?
Always make sure the catering is good. We had just some serious mutinies on our hands because we're handing out way too many shitty sausage sandwiches and just giving somebody a handful of chocolate and going, oh, just deal with that for, that's your food for the next 12 hours. And that's not good. Catering has to be good. The lesson that I learned from the first one was, I thought the first one was amateur hour. I thought, we'll just make a bunch of shit with our mates and then we'll be pros. And what I realized, having made Necrotronic, was, oh no, we got it right the first time. Really, every film should feel like a bunch of friends getting together. It should feel like amateur hour. It should feel like people are having fun and having a great time, and the film is the priority rather than, the professionalism of it all. Necrotronic was, a real splash in the face for me, because it was my first studio film. And I got about halfway through it just going, how in the name of God does Nolan do it? How does he make personal visionary films when you've got literally 7 people helping you make every single creative decision that you make? Because, I think to make something pure, there has to be a singular vision. There just has to be. And the more money, the less singular the vision. And so what I'm trying to do now, moving forward from Wormwood Apocalypse, is to try and find a happy medium. With Wormwood Apocalypse, like we went back to kind of crazy days of, you know, like low budget filmmaking. Except, you know, this time we knew a hell of a lot more. We had more money so that it was, you know, properly pro. We had Blake Northfield, who's made 4 films, and he came in and just made sure everything was schmick and that the catering was good. That was important. But I'd love to be able to step it up and make something with a sort of similar budget to Necrotronic, but also make it with that DIY film school approach. And try to have that singular vision again. I don't know what the secret is, but it's got to be out there, because I see these amazing filmmakers like, like Paul Thomas Anderson and Scorsese and stuff. They've worked it out. I don't know what the secret is, but there's got to be a way to have a singular vision and to have a little bit more money. That'd be fun, you know.
The first film just sort of blew up internationally, and did that catch you off guard? And I'm wondering if the weight of expectation from horror fans all around the world affected you creatively. Like, you know, did you have a wider audience in mind when you're making the movie, or did you just play it to the Aussie attributes?
You always hope that you're going to make like a classic. And, you know, like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the Australian Scorsese. And, you know, very quickly in the business, you realize, no, I'm going to be Kiah Roache Turner, whatever that means. You know, Scorsese's already got that wrapped up. Like, honestly, like we would have been happy to just release Wormwood 1 on YouTube and just go about our business, but it sold to a distributor and it did well. And we got, you know, #1 on iTunes for a while. And, you know, we got really decent reviews from like the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and like Time Magazine and stuff. So that means we won the low budget lottery. Like, I think we just had a good idea and it was well rendered. And, you know, the weight of expectation is difficult, but I've really learned that, you know, I mean, the only expectation you have to meet is your own. You know, as long as you like your film, chances are there'll be a pocket of people who like it too. It just really depends on how big that pocket is, you know?
Yeah. Do those people immediately sort of come up to you asking you about a third chapter after they've seen the second one?
Yeah. Heaps of people are like, so when's 3 coming out? And that's the funny thing of the film. You spend like 2.5 years or like 4 years writing it, 2.5 years making it. You break your butt. And the first question is, when's the next one? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, Jesus, give me a break. Like, let the wounds heal from the last one, man.
But it means you're doing something right.
It must. But to be honest with you, I'm rearing to go, man. I'd love to make Wormwood 3. You know, I've already started jotting down ideas. I could write this script like pretty quick. I'd love to keep doing it. You know, like I said, as long as they keep letting me do it, I'll do it. You know,
I'll be there. I'll be there for sure. Like, you know, front row center for sure.
I think you're gonna like this one, man. It's a classic. It's a real classic genre meat grinder of a film, and it's, you know, there's not too many Aussie Evil Deads, you know, and I think this one's pretty good. I think anybody who loves genre will just look at this and go, okay, yeah, well done. You know, the whole third act is just balls to the wall. I'm really happy with it. You know, it's just got constant action, and it's not just action for the sake of it. Like, there really is quite, you know, it's got peaks and valleys. It's got, you know, it's sort of constantly inventive, and it's low budget as fuck. Like, it's not, you know, you couldn't put it up there with like, you know, Avengers Endgame. But the whole point of this is to have the opposite of Avengers Endgame as an option for an audience. You know, people who are sick of seeing the world explode can just watch a little Australian zombie's head explode, you know? Yeah.
well, I mean, I don't sell yourself short, because I think even just the first film alone was like of international standard. Like, the quality was exceptional for a low budget film. So I'm really psyched for this one, that's for sure.
Such a nice thing to hear. It's so funny too, because we just shot it on like 5Ds and stuff. Like, literally, like a big chunk of that was shot in my mum's backyard. Like, it still blows my mind that people are like, yeah, it's of a standard that's pretty like
a couple of years ago, I was presenting some online content for Scarefest in Kentucky, and I was promoting Aussie horror films to them. and Wormwood is the one that stuck with them. Wormwood and Cargo are the two that they just said these are some of the best horror that we've ever seen. So, it resonates.
Cargo is like it's a beautiful film, and it's got like the emotional impact of it is just gorgeous. And Wormwood, they're kind of opposites. It'd actually be a really good double bill. Cargo and Wormwood. Wormwood's like this kind of splatterfest. Yeah. And it's weird though. We have a legitimate following in Texas. And they're always writing in saying how they love it and how shit the guns look. They're just like, God damn, you make a hell of a zombie film, but you can't make a gun for shit, man. Those guns are fake as fuck. And they are, because we just carved them out of wood.
Yeah.
It's bad taste time, man. We literally carved them out of wood and painted them black,
Oh man, our time is fleeting. I want you to indulge me just for a moment. We're the same age, and we grew up in an incredible moment of movies and video stores. What were the kind of movies you were renting from a video store at a young age?
I used to go to, what was it called? There was Video Shift in Balmain, which I adored because they're just a hell of a video store. But there was a little video store on Broadway, and I can't remember the name of it. It's not Video Manor, it's something else. But it was run by a guy who looked exactly like, who's the director? Alan Parker. He just looked like Alan Parker, like a grumpy Alan Parker. And I'd go down there looking for just crazy shit. Like I'd go down, obviously looking for the Evil Deads and, like all of that kind of stuff and trying to find some earlier Dario Argento. But I'd go down and ask if he had Malinoche, the early black and white Gus Van Sant, like this little 16-year-old film nerd. And like, that's when he noticed me. He looked up and like raised an eyebrow. He's like, Malinoche, how do you know about that? I'm like, I read shit, man. So I was just always looking for, like anything, Fellini, whatever. The thing that I loved about video stores more than anything though, is you'd go to like Blockbuster and stuff and you have Goodfellas and Taxi Driver and whatnot, but you had to go and search for mean streets. Like you couldn't find like early Scorsese, like Who's That Knocking at My Door, like all that kind of stuff. Like that was the fun stuff, having to actually hunt shit down. Like no video store had New York. Like you had to go to Video Shift for that. And they had the sections in, you go through director by director. And, it's like it was actually kind of hard to find Last Temptation of Christ and all that kind of stuff. Like, but, you'd hear about this film called Deep Red and you'd go rent that. Like you'd get a friend's mum to rent it for you, all that stuff was great. I'm getting excited just talking about it, man. I spent like literally thousands of hours in video stores, You'd spend a half day, just getting your 10. And even the video store person would just be looking at you going, do you not have a home to go? You've been here for 7 hours. Like,
you would have loved my store, and I had plenty of those customers that just lingered all day. I even, made them comfortable. Want a coffee? Here you go.
Well, there was a point where my local video store just said, look, you have to work here. Like, you're here too often. And so that was one of my first jobs, was a video store clerk, of course, but I didn't even ask for the job. He demanded it. He goes, dude, you have to work here now. It's like, you're here too often. We may as well pay you.
Oh, mate, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth, but I'm legitimately psyched for Apocalypse. I'm really, really eager to see it, and I'm going to hold out for Monster Fest. No screeners or anything like that. And I just, wish you all the best with it. I hope it really, really takes off, and hope there is a number 3.
Thanks, man. And I'm genuinely interested. Like, you've got my email now. Shoot me an email. I mean, if you hate it, don't bother. But like, just tell me what you think. Fuck it. Even if you hate it, let me know. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Like, just as a film critic, I'm very interested. Because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Consider it done, and thank you so much for your time, mate.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size. Today, we're going to talk about movie discoveries. These are discoveries that we've made over the past year that maybe not a ton of people have seen, but we highly suggest that we either accidentally found or that no one's really talking about. You want me to go first, Chad?
Yeah, go for it, bud.
I've got 2. So both of mine, I do the review for Scarefest, which means it's a weekly thing. So it means I'm always looking for new horror films. The issue is that's sometimes tough, but God bless Shudder, because there's actually 2 movies that I saw on Shudder that I think one of them got a pretty good press, and then the director is going to go on to do another thing, and it actually scared me. And the other one I just think is pretty well made. The first one is Host. If you've not seen Host, it's only about 60 minutes. It's a Shudder exclusive. They shot it during lockdown on Zoom. The movie is so effective. It's so smart that it's only 60 minutes. I mean, another 10, 15 minutes would have taken it too far. And it made me jump 2 or 3 times. It got to me. I thought it was really scary. Once again, you got to subscribe to Shudder, but even if you only want to do it for a month, just for the two. The other one is something called Anything for Jackson. And Anything for Jackson is about this older couple whose daughter is dead and their grandson's dead. And they make a deal with the devil to bring back their grandson. And they're not quite sure how they made the deal, who they went through, what deal they've made, and all these. It sounds like a comedy. It's not. It's just how this would go if two older folks like, well, let's make a deal with the devil, or let's go buy a new iPhone. I don't quite know how it works. Does that make sense to you too? And so they get the iPhone, deal with the devil, and they let in a lot of other demons. And by the way, none of this works out for anybody. So Anything for Jackson, if you get a chance, I really enjoyed it. It's a couple of character actors play the leads, whom I don't remember right now, from Canada. Check it out. Anything for Jackson. Chad.
Okay, so mine also is a horror film, and I will admittedly say that it's not a great film, but damn, did I enjoy the hour and 25 minutes it was on. I am talking about Bingo Hell.
Never heard of it. What's it on?
It's on. It's an Amazon original movie, so you have to have an Amazon Prime account. It's about these old people who live in this neighborhood. It's being run down. Big corporations are coming in to gentrify it, essentially, but they refuse to give up their homes. And their one group activity that they get together with is every weekend they go and have a bingo match at the local town hall, town hall. But eventually this demon, played by the amazing Richard Brake, and turns the bingo hall into a place to grab people's souls as they win at bingo.
Is it a comedy?
It is played. It is a little bit comedy, a little bit horror, a little bit drama. Sometimes it doesn't mesh well. Sometimes the plot falls down, but every now and then something batshit crazy happens that just pulls you back in. Highly recommend checking it out. Again, it's only an hour and 25 minutes. It gave me that feeling of just finding one of those B horror films at the rental store that you would just pick up and go, well, I don't know what this is. I'm going to go check it out. And it was an hour and 25 minutes of fun for me.
I really am struggling because I didn't get to see much this year, and there are various other things that happened. But
well, then just shut the hell up and we'll end it here.
No,
Goodbye, folks. That's been Bonehead
I was
Weekly Fun
thinking
Size.
actually about a movie that occasionally I flash back to, and it's not a heavy film. It's nothing like what you all are talking about. But I think
hold on. Bingo Hell is a heavy film?
Mine too are kind of heavy.
Probably more so than what I'm going to talk about. But as the father of a daughter who's approaching her teen years and therefore hates me, Mitchell's versus the Machines.
That was good.
That is a good film.
That was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
If you haven't had a chance to see it, basically it's the machines take over. Basically the iPods take over the iPods. Nobody has an iPod. The iPads and the iPhones take over the world. And the Mitchells are a family that's not perfect. They are a very realistic family as far as animated movies go.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to fight back, and it has actually some things to say about parenthood and about growing up and things like that, and realizing that there is no such thing as a perfect family. Everybody's screwed up. Everybody's trying, hopefully, the best that they can, or at least good families do. And it actually is a fun movie that we've watched a couple times now. My kids like it. But it actually is something that I can watch again with them, and it's not unbearable. So if you've not seen Mitchell versus the Machines, do check it out. It's a lot of fun.
This has been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
As I was mapping out this show, Ben, I was struggling with this particular block, because I was racking my brain for another one that was worth talking about. So I thought, fuck it. I just hit Google and went looking for movies that I've never heard of.
I love this. Like, is that what you typed into Google? Like, movies I have never heard of, and Siri's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's the typical, late night rabbit hole where you click one name lead to another. And I sort of deliberately went through 5 steps without thinking so that I'd land somewhere that it was unfamiliar.
5 steps? Step into my office because you're fucking fired. It's 7 steps.
I found one that I can't believe I hadn't heard of. I'm disappointed that I hadn't heard of, especially considering that it was right under my nose, and I really should have found this one before our Disney episode. Anyway, it was produced by the Magical World of Disney, but it's very theatrical, and it's the fantastic 1973 film Super Dad, starring Bob Crane, Kurt Russell, and Kathleen Cody, plus some others that I'll mention in a moment. But seriously, what a movie! I tell you, I was like a little boy on the couch watching this one.
When you mentioned this to me,
Yeah.
and sent me the link, I was like, I haven't heard of this, and I looked at the poster and I'm like, this is not helping with my desire to watch the film.
I'll tell you, Bob Crane plays an overprotective dad to a teenage daughter, and she's in her late teens, and he completely hates her circle of friends, because they're all sort of delinquents and all that kind of stuff, and they're all into that beach party surf culture. That was so big, back then. And one day he sees a relationship counselor on the TV suggesting that the best way for parents to bond with their kids was to actually go out and get involved with the kids, right? So he tries to be the cool dad and he hangs out with them wherever they go. He's there at the beach and there he is, with a towel right next to them and trying to, get away with all the cool lingo. And this is just funny. It's just absolutely hilarious. It plays out like I imagined a modern John Candy movie would play out like. I got a sense of summer rental and great outdoors,
I was going to say, for me, it feels like you're talking about the original She's Out of Control with Tony Danza.
Remake? But look, obviously, he eventually pushes her away because of what he's doing. And then the story really switches gears because she does get involved with the wrong crowd. And he comes to realize that her friends were probably the better friends in the end. They were just kids being kids. Yeah. But holy shit, where has this film been my whole life? I am going to watch it again, soon. My favorite part is towards the beginning as they're driving through the suburbs. And this is how you know it's a Disney film because they're driving in their car singing a song. And... But it's great because one of them's got a guitar and the others are bopping along and singing the song. And Kurt Russell...
please tell me it's Bob Crane who's driving is the one playing the guitar.
No, he's on the sidewalk going, "You delinquents!" But Kurt Russell's lying on a surfboard that's hanging out the window, and you think to yourself, "You could die." That's dangerous, But it's the '60s, man, or the '70s, and he's got his arms behind his head and he's just singing this song.
Was it a green screen?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Whatever screen they had back then, it was probably rear projection.
Yeah, right.
But, oh, man, I love this film. And I said there were some other people in this, and two of his best friends, this is before they were stars, Bruno Kirby.
Yeah, right.
Plays the real sort of smart-ass jokester that just keeps getting fired from one job and gets picking up another one, getting fired, picking up, and that becomes an ongoing joke. But he's so excited to have each new job, and he doesn't know where he's going wrong. And it's the fact that he keeps stealing their car so they can go surfing. And then the other friend who's like the real sort of beachcomber with the wispy blonde hair is Egg Begley Jr.
Yeah, right.
As a gangly teenager, and that just blew my mind. And tell you what, yeah, I want everybody, if they can, find Super Dad, watch it.
Is it on Disney Plus?
In accordance with my disappointment of Disney Plus, it is not. No, it is not there. But I think I found this on YouTube and just rented it. I do like renting from YouTube. I don't know why. It's just easy, I think.
You do it a lot.
I do. It's easy. I feel good about spending money on movies.
But are you a YouTube Red member or whatever it is?
They don't have that anymore. It's just YouTube now.
But there is a way that you can pay so you don't get the ads.
Premium.
Yeah, YouTube Premium. Are you a YouTube Premium subscriber?
I'm not, but if you just rent a film, you don't get ads.
Right. Yeah, of course.
You got the choice of HD or SD, and I always go the HD. And it's just easy because I can just search for a movie. There it is. It automatically debits my card. I'm happy. And like I said, you and I are in a privileged position where we do get a lot of freebies. We get a lot of discs sent to us. So when we get to pay for things...
You can never have enough freebies sent to you. Any distributors listening would welcome any more freebies you would like to send our way.
We also go to screenings, right? So we lose touch with the fact that people should be paying for movies. And so I feel good paying, and I spend probably $15 a week on renting movies.
Right. It's like going to the video store.
Exactly.
You go every week. You get 5 weeklies for $5.
Oh, what a sad comparison that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think YouTube should do it. It should be five movies for $5.
Yeah, totally.
If you buy them all together and you get like a week's worth of time to watch them. You watch them as many times as you want in that week.
I'd be happy for it to be aggregated where I select the movie I want and then they recommend 4 others that'll like it and just stack them on top as a bonus. I haven't paid for them. If I've seen them before, oh well. If I haven't, well, there you go, something new.
Yeah.
Which is what video people used to do in the video stores.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say you rent one, and those freebies, I can recommend some for you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Good morning and happy Monday, friends. It's Chloe from Movie Night with the Richie Girls.
Hey, Chloe. What am I doing here?
Surprise!
Oh, wow. So this is a little bit different to usual.
Just got to change it up, keep it interesting.
Life has a habit of throwing curveballs at us, and this week life threw you a doozy, and we were unable to get your segment recorded. So I thought, why not, grab you while we can in the spur of the moment and do the segment this way.
Have fun. Change it up.
The theme for this episode is recent discoveries. Like, are there any movies recently that you've seen that I guess you haven't seen before, but you should have?
Yeah, I have a really good one for this one, actually. So, you know how you go through life and you hear all these people say, oh my God, do you remember that happened in this movie and that happened in this movie? And it's just like it's a classic movie that you should have seen, but you just haven't.
Mm-hmm.
That was Big Trouble in Little China for me. And Mum was absolutely so disappointed in me that I hadn't seen it. And she couldn't believe that she had a child who hadn't seen Big Trouble in Little China. So I decided to rectify that this year, and I watched that one.
I've got a poster of that hanging above my bed.
Above your bed? Oh my God. You must really love Kurt Russell.
I do, and John Carpenter.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Well, what did you think of it?
Okay, so I don't know what I had in mind about this movie. I was thinking it was something completely different to what it actually was. So when I actually sat down for the first time round, I didn't finish it. I had to turn it off about 10 minutes in. Yeah, I know. Wait for the story to finish. So I had to turn it off because I'm just like, what the fuck is this movie? I don't get it. I wasn't in the right headspace. So I left it and I went back a week later and I started it again, coming into it with a little bit more knowledge, and it's just bloody brilliant. It's just bloody brilliant. It's just
excellent. That's the correct response.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I was ready for, rivalry Chinese gangs or some sort of Asian style gangs fighting each other in the streets, and Kurt Russell being the hero that saves the day or something, creates peace between the rival gangs. That's definitely not what it is.
No, it actually subverts the trope of the white guy being the hero of the film. He kind of is a hero, but he's a bumbling, klutzy kind of buffoon.
And it's the best.
Yeah, and it's is it Wang Chi, I think is the name of his sidekick, who actually is the hero of the story?
I can't remember his name, but it's just, he's gorgeous and brilliant.
Yeah, and everything about it, I love it. I'm glad you visited this one. I'm glad you loved it. The mysticism of it, we can't. This is the problem too, is that this is the 80s, right? And this is back when you were allowed to use the term Oriental. Mm-hmm. And I love the term Oriental because it kind of
it's a beautiful word.
It romanticizes the East, as far as I'm concerned. But now apparently it's a little bit derogatory. But in the 80s, when they used Oriental themes, like, it was magical and it was glorious. And I don't think it's derogatory at all. I think it actually showcased Asian cinema in a way, because it was bringing to the Western audiences the kind of cinema they were making in many of the Asian countries.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm not Asian, so I wouldn't find it derogatory myself, and people of that culture might, but I think it's a beautiful word, Oriental, and I think it encaptures perfectly what these type of movies were portraying. So, and the
interesting thing is, the reason that it's considered to be derogatory is because Oriental encapsulated most of the Asian cultures in one.
Oh, I see.
However, when they released, I can't remember, there was the Raya, the Disney film Raya last year, or this year. I remember them saying the beauty of this film is it encapsulates many of the Asian cultures in one. So they're kind of doing the same thing now.
Yeah, exactly. And you're completely right. Raya does encapsulate a lot of the Asian cultures all into one sort of universe, and it's stunning. It's just a beautiful movie, that one. But I love the colors in this movie, in Big Trouble in Little China. I love the colors. I love the costumes. I loved the languages and how fast they spoke, and the mysticism of it, and just the absolute strangeness of it as well. And how you had no idea, you literally had no idea what was going to happen next. And it was just thrilling and wonderful.
Yes, absolutely correct, and I'm glad you picked this one. And before we let you run, did you know this movie also inspired Mortal Kombat?
Yes, I did.
You've done your homework.
Yeah. So I did a whole Facebook story on it and Instagram story on it because, people were so worried about me that I hadn't seen it. So I thought I decided to show everybody that I'm doing it. I'm doing it properly, and I did my research, and I was going to even do a whole episode on it. So I still might.
Yeah, you still definitely should. But I've got to get back to the show. So would you like to take us out?
Have a happy Monday, friends. Bye.
And now we're down to your final recommendation, Ben. What little treat do you have for us in your bag, and why haven't you seen it until now?
Well, I was going to say, like I mentioned at the start of the show, Cash on Demand was a movie that I had never heard of. It was like a total discovery. This one I'd heard of since I started getting into film. I'd known about this film, and just for whatever reason had no interest in watching it. And then I heard them talk about it on, I think it was the Pure Cinema podcast, which is the New Beverly Cinemas show. And I was like, you know what? And they mentioned, because it does, Emmett Walsh does appear in this film, and they said it was this. The Coen brothers saw him in this, loved him so much, and that's why they cast him in Blood Simple. So I was like, well, okay. I love Blood Simple. I love Emmett Walsh.
Yep.
I've got to check this movie out. And it is, of course, 1979's Straight Time.
Yeah.
Now, this movie is directed by Ulu Grossbard, although it wasn't originally supposed to be. It was supposed to be Dustin Hoffman. But on the first day of shooting, apparently, he took it was just an establishing shot of him getting out of prison. His character, because he's also the lead actor in it. He took all day, he kept insisting on different camera setups. At the end of the day, they hadn't shot a single frame of film. So he stepped down as director, and Ulu Grossbard was hired to take over. So basically, this movie is Dustin Hoffman plays this guy who gets out of prison after doing 6 years for theft. He's a thief. And he wants to go straight. And they send him off. He meets his parole officer, who's Emmett Walsh, who he appears to be a nice guy, but he's actually kind of a pretty kind of passive aggressive asshole. Although you the other side of it is you can understand doing what he's doing and the people he deals with on a daily basis. Everyone that he deals with would be lying to him and trying to pull one over, and he just takes no shit from Dustin Hoffman. But anyway, so Dustin Hoffman has to deal with him. And part of the deal is he's got to try and get a job, but he has to tell them that he's just got out of prison and he's on parole. He's not allowed. He's got to. They want him to stay at a halfway house of their choosing. So he feels like he's in prison even though he's not. And then eventually he meets Teresa Russell, who's also in the film. She works at an employment agency and gets him a job working. I think it's at a printer's, where he's cleaning he's like a janitor role at a printer. And he hooks up with his old kind of friends, like cellmates. Like Gary Busey is one of them. Harry Dean Stanton is another one. It's like a great cast, and of course, Gary Busey's wife is played by a very, very young Kathy Bates, who I didn't know was making movies.
I was about
when
to
she was
say,
this old.
I thought she started her career a bit later.
Yeah, and she's like a young 70s kind of mama in this.
Yeah, no, I think I did. I remember her talking about this, actually. Now it's all coming together.
Yeah,
She did
right.
one of those Hollywood Reporter sort of, let's track through our career. I
Yeah,
think
right.
that's the one. Yep. Okay.
And she's like, she basically is like, look, Gary Busey's trying to go straight, and he really doesn't need you around.
Yeah.
Even though it's pretty clear right from the outset, it's actually the other way around. Dustin Hoffman is having more success going straight to Gary Busey.
Yep.
But also there's a surprise cameo from Jake Busey, who plays Gary Busey's son in it.
God, how old was he then?
He would have been about 6.
Wow.
Like, and it's a great. He's got some great bits in it. Some pretty funny bits.
Future Hitcher too.
Yeah, that's right. So then, as the film goes on, he kind of ends up sinking back into his life of crime.
Mm.
And the movie is based on a book by Eddie Bunker, who is Mr. Blue from Reservoir Dogs, if you're unfamiliar. And he does have a cameo in the film. Harry Dean Stanton is his partner. They go and do some armed robberies together. And
Eddie Bunker was a real criminal, right?
he was a real criminal, yeah.
Yeah.
And he turned it around. He wrote a lot of his books while being incarcerated.
Yeah.
And like Harry Dean Stanton does get to sing a song, which is always
Both of our movies have songs.
have songs in it, which is always good. And the robbery stuff is quite harrowing, but it's perfect casting for Dustin Hoffman because he is like, there's definitely something wrong with this guy, and he's a dangerous kind of criminal, but it's also Dustin Hoffman, so he just doesn't come across as super menacing or aggressive until he does, and he turns it on, and then you're like, holy fuck. Like, it is a fantastic film. Definitely worth checking out. Straight time.
Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam's Just Seen and Triple M with another Good Movie Monday recommendation. Today we are doing later discoveries, and if I'm being honest, I got a bunch of these. My education came from the film store. I was a teenager walking around just grabbing things off the shelf because I liked the look of the cover. Then I go, who made this, if it took hold of me, and then I would like fetishize the director's filmography. So it was kind of like an informal education. And I kind of said to myself, like, look, I'm going to just watch everything that comes out every week modern, and I'll try and go back, work my way through, like 90s, 80s, 70s. And that's kind of where I stopped because I was like, I want to be encyclopedic, but I can only kind of do this with modern cinema. I don't have time to watch all this stuff. So now and then I feel embarrassed about some of the classics or things that I haven't seen or the things that have fallen through the cracks. But when I get a chance now, I go to the Astor Theatre and see them on the big screen when I can. And so just the other night, I went and saw Barry Lyndon, a Stanley Kubrick film that I had never seen. I'm pretty sure I had never seen because it all felt pretty new to me. And that's kind of embarrassing because my dad bought me a Stanley Kubrick box set when I was 16, and this film definitely was in part of that Warner Brothers release. Barry Lyndon is a pretty incredible film. I normally don't gravitate towards Stanley Kubrick films. I think that they're kind of cold. I never kind of felt like a sense of, journey with any of the protagonists. I felt alienated by his films. But now when I go back and I revisit them, I notice how kind of sly and funny what Stanley's doing. He's kind of always been called like the anti-Spielberg. And you can see this here in this movie. Barry is... it's a funny movie, and it's got this cool travelogue element that I've always liked in films because you can have this episodic nature where the protagonist stumbles through history, through a journey, and has interactions with character actors, and you can have these kind of memorable idiosyncratic scenes. And, Ryan O'Neal is great here as Redmond Barry, this guy who's kind of stumbling his way through fate. I've always found something about, aristocrats to kind of be stuffy and funny. And this film is utterly gorgeous to look at as well, because it's iconic for its naturally lit cinematography. And like all Kubrick productions, it is meticulous in all its small details. So, the movie does go for like a butt-numbing 3.5 hours. But, I was kind of transfixed by it, and I think that there was something that I was like, why the hell hadn't I checked this out earlier? So I was grateful that I checked out Barry Lyndon. So if you have got a hole in your Kubrick filmography the size of Barry, check it out immediately. I highly recommend it.
Well, we did it, Ben. It's not too clunky at all. No task is impossible for this dynamic duo.
Holy film discoveries, Batman.
Super fun, though. I hope everybody listening has some food for thought and added them to the list. No need to take notes, though, because we've uploaded all of the aforementioned titles onto our Letterboxd account. So check out letterboxd.com/Good Movie Monday. Don't forget, we also have a website, goodmoviemonday.com. Everything we do is archived there, every episode, all the videos, all the links to our platforms, and more. Ben, have you ever seen a 1984 sex comedy called The Rosebud Beach Hotel?
No, I've got it on tape, but I have not watched
Colin
it.
Camp and Peter Scolari and Christopher Lee's in that. What about The Further Adventures of Tennessee Buck? Have you seen that?
I've also got that on tape, but I haven't seen. Is that with Keith David or David Keith?
Yeah, what about 1981's Lunch Wagon?
I've also got that on tape.
Well, there you go. New film discoveries around every corner, mate.
I've got all of these on cassette tape.
Of course you do.
Lunch Wagon looks fantastic. Like, people talk about that really well.
Yeah, I just pluck those names out just because I'm like, they're movies I've not seen, and I thought maybe you haven't.
Maybe I
and-
haven't. Yeah.
and nice
We
little-
should watch them all. Like, we'll keep a track of these, and then for one of the first shows when we return next year, we can talk about these films.
Oh, mate, you're setting up something. Something's in motion here, and I like it.
Don't worry, just go to the toilet; it'll pass.
Big thanks to the Good Movie Monday players. That's what we're going to call them from now on.
Oh yeah, they're not quite ready for primetime players.
Jarrett, Guillermo, Chloe, Adam, Joe, Chad, and James, and of course Tia, who may or may not remain a mystery to most. Yeah, keep listening to our show. All will be revealed. I think we've done well, mate.
Yes, and thank you for helping me launch my ASMR/mukbang career.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I look forward to seeing you all on Chatterbait.
Cams.com. Depends who offers us more money.
Good movie moaning?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's sign off with another song of your choice. Did you want to sign off with this and let them know what it is? Do you remember?
What's the name of the song?
It's Making Time.
Making Time by The Creation. That's right. For me, this is my ultimate film discovery. I went to see, it's from the Rushmore soundtrack, and I went to see Rushmore theatrically. I had no idea who Wes Anderson is. I had no idea what the film was about. It was a complete blind purchase. I was like, I'm going to check this out. And it blew me away. It was one of those movies that I was about 20 minutes into it, and I was like, I started feeling a bit depressed because I'm like, I can never experience this film for the first time again because it was just so good. Like, I loved everything about it. I wanted to be Max Fisher. I wanted to be, what's his name? Bill Murray's character, Bloom. I can't remember what his first name is. And I instantly fell in love with Olivia Williams. And it had a Wilson brother in it. It had two. Does it have two Wilson brothers? No, it's just got Luke in it.
Let's have a listen to what that's all about. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one.